Alright, 2004 Avalanche project part 2. We'll get started with, I pulled that chrome garbage off of those door handles and off of that fuel door. Still got a little cleaning to do on the fuel door, but I just couldn't take those anymore. Alright, a little bit of an update, some of the stuff I've got took care of. I bought a different scanner, something that was new and will do everything. It'll do airbag, ABS stuff. I'm not sure if it'll do body control, but it'll do a lot of the the stuff that we'll run into, or I'll run into anyway. And Innova, or whatever the heck that is, I don't know, 3160G I think's the number, and they're going for around this area a couple, like 220. I picked it up cheaper than that, but anyway, I plugged it in and was looking for that airbag sensor specifically, and I'd already kind of looked at possible issues and kind of where to look, and I pulled the panel off from where the hood release is, because that's where one of the connectors are, and I messed with that a little bit. Now, and I told you that I changed these battery terminal posts because the way they had it set up was if you watch the last video, that was just unacceptable. So I don't know if it was a ground issue, which we have actually ran into before. If you don't have proper grounding, you lose. For some reason, this is the second one of these I've ran into with a bad ground, had airbag problems. And then I don't know if it was that or what. I actually had this plugged in, and I read the code, and when I messed with that wire and next thing I know, the code was gone, and I didn't have to reset it. It did it on its own, which is kind of typical on the airbag stuff, because most of that stuff, it's continually kind of reading, it's processing that stuff all the time, and it actually went away on its own. So it was either that connector or this ground on this battery. So I'm not really sure which one it was, but the airbag code is now gone, at least for now. So we'll we'll keep an eye on that. Outside of that, I've been kind of messing around trying to figure out why it still has that code P300, and I bought some carb cleaner, which is the cheaper stuff. He kind of talked me into it, and I wished I had, and I wish I bought the better stuff, because it doesn't smell near like carburetor cleaner does. But I sprayed all around this intake manifold in every line, throttle body, and it's not changing anything it's doing. So I have a feeling that it's not necessarily a vacuum leak, but I'm not ruling it out. And then I pulled, they said they changed the plugs and wires on it, which they did. I pulled spark plugs just to see what kind they put in, because a lot of times people will not put the iridium plugs in, they'll put something cheap in. And I pulled the plugs, and sure enough, they're the AC Delco. I can't give you the specific number. It was 6, 8 digit, at least 8 digit long, I think. But I looked them up, and they are the iridium plugs. So new wires, new plugs, can't find a vacuum leak, and I'm still having the same issues. So with that said, it could still be fuel system, or it could be, I don't think it's a coil pack. I'm not hearing anything. Some of the guys I've watched working on these, you can literally audibly hear an actual arc, spark arc, or whatever you want to call it, but you can hear it arcing across something, and that's not what I'm not noticing that at all. But one thing, this newer reader showed possibilities of that code 300 is unusual noise. That I'm not, to me, the knock sensors would pick that up, but I'm not getting a knock sensor, code, which usually you get those. I've actually had to have them programmed out of one of the vehicles, because I just could not get it to. I use cheap ones. I've said this in possibly other videos a long time ago, well, when I got started anyway, that if you're going to spend the time of getting in here underneath this intake manifold to replace these knock sensors, replace them with the GM ones. I know they're kind of expensive, and the harness, and don't, because you either get bad readings or you have to do it again. So I didn't want to feel like pulling it because it was too hard to get off. But I'd use cheaper ones because I thought that was the way to go, and it bit me. So that's not it. Okay, my next thing is though, I guess I better stay on that. What I did find is, and I was kind of surprised. I'm looking for my light that I just had in my hand. Well, go figure. Wow. I mean, I literally just had it in my hand. What I did find, though, when it said possible, there it is, possible over exhaust noise, well, it's got stock exhaust on it. However, what I did find yesterday while crawling around underneath, let's see if I can get you under here to look at this.
Look at a hole that somebody welded up in a catalytic converter. I don't know if they hit something to put a hole in it. There's no rust on this thing anywhere, so I don't think it rusted out. But somebody's welded a hole in it, so I don't know if they drilled it out. I haven't looked at the other one and tried to get the crap out of the center of it. I'm not really sure what they did. It's not giving me a code on the rear O2s, so I'm not really sure what was going on there. But I do have a noise through the exhaust, but I just cannot imagine that causing it to run like it's doing. But again, there's so many things that can cause this particular code, so I'm just going to have to go through and eliminate each one at a time until I can pinpoint it. I mean, this cannot be impossible to do. The thing runs great above 1500 RPM. Second you take off down the road, it's fine. So I'm going with it's something obviously kind of stupid, and that seems to be the common denominator. Is it's not always the same problem. That's why this code is so vague. So what I'm doing is I have not reset the codes. I'm just going to go ahead and keep driving it around, and hopefully it will give me more codes. Excuse me. Now, I can live watch. I can actually plug this in and put it on live data, and it'll actually show me what it's doing. Yeah, so I know you're getting light reflective off there, and even though it doesn't show anything, it actually shows what it's doing. Monitor, it actually shows what it's doing right now, and it shows RPM and fuel. I don't know if it gives me trends or not. I don't think it's that sophisticated. I didn't get a book with it. If it had one, I didn't get it, so I'm gonna have to probably Google this and see if I can get some information off. But either way, it wasn't hard to find, and it actually shows what's sitting there running, kind of some live data. The problem is it's showing O2s and some of the other stuff, and it might as well be hieroglyphics because it doesn't mean anything to me. I see numbers jumping around and moving, and that's just not, it's not my vocabulary. So I'm literally going to have to look up what it's supposed to be at certain RPMs or driving or whatever. It would be nice if you could kind of set this as a, like some type of an alarm on it. I'm sure the expensive stuff that you buy from like Snap-on and some of them other ones probably give you so many more options. Well, I know they give you more options, but that way if it actually starts bouncing this particular, even though if it's not picking up as a fault code, it would be nice if you can kind of see it, what it's doing. Is it running lean? Is it running fat? Is it getting out of just for a split second? Is it getting out of its range or whatever? It may do that. I have not looked, to be honest with you, but I don't think it does. But anyway, what I'm going to do is plug this in, drive it around for a while, and see if I can actually find something that's showing up that's not supposed to. And I'll try to get some information on what these numbers are actually supposed to be, and then we'll kind of go from there. So anyway, guys, that's kind of the update. At least the airbag thing is fixed. I did crawl underneath there yesterday, and I did not put it neutral, and I probably should have. I had the rear end jacked up, I had the front end jacked up, but I did the rear end, and everything seems kind of tight. And like I said, I'm hearing a lot of noise from the front end also. So I jacked the front just one corner up just to kind of see, to get underneath it and just kind of see if I see anything specific, like a bad CV or U-joint or whatever, and I'm not seeing anything. Everything's pretty tight. But what I have noticed is that the transfer case is actually leaking, and it looks like it's got fresh, wrench marks on the fill plug and stuff like that. So I would say that somebody knew that there was a problem and they just sent it down the road that way. Anyway, I'm guessing it's the transfer case. Like I said, the four-wheel drive does engage, but it is not moving it. And I'm going to have to research this too, because I don't know. My truck's over at the shop, where I bring it over and check. I jack up the same corner and see what it does. I can spin the front tire, and of course it spins a CV, but it doesn't spin the drive shaft. I can spin the front drive shaft free without the rear drive shaft spinning, without the front, without any of the front end. So I know when you engage the four-wheel drive, it engages the front axle. I assume, being electronic, it doesn't have the shifter. It must engage the transfer case too, because you have to have a low range. I don't know how it works, to be honest. I just don't. I have never had trouble with my four-wheel drive systems on these newer Chevys. I had an 89 even, and never had any trouble with it, although it used a different style of course it was a floor shifter, but it was still some type of an electronic actuator, because it worked off of some type of a heat. I really don't know how it actually engaged, but when you would put it in four-wheel drive, you had to wait for a while for it to actually engage. Not a while, but if the colder it was, the longer it took. It could take up to 10-15 seconds to actually engage on a 0-degree day. But either way, I'll look into this and do a little more research and find out if it's the front center section. To be honest with you, I would rather it almost be that, although there's still a tremendous amount of work pulling it. If it's transfer case, then I might look into actually rebuilding one myself. I've never done it. I don't think it's that difficult. I don't know. So we'll kind of see. I'll play with this till I can figure out what's wrong. It's in two-wheel drive, driving around town. It's fine. It's when you put it in four-wheel drive, and I will do a video of that pretty soon of what it's doing. I may even put the camera on the ground, see if I can catch the sound if it's coming from the front or back, or actually have somebody do it, drive it for me while I move, while I've got video in it, and see if we can actually find, or jack it up on all fours and see if it does it. It's suspended with no load. I bet it may or may not. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. So I'll keep you posted on what I find, and hopefully we can get this thing turned around and sold.